All right. Normally I give the article first and then I'll give my analysis or even my ramble afterward. But I'm going to give a slight forward to this one before I read the article, because a lot of times people will listen to like maybe a minute or two and they'll hear me reading the article and they'll see the title and they'll start commenting on the video they really haven't heard. And they haven't even heard what I even think about it. So I'm going to give some of what I think about this up front. I was just listening to Cynthia G's latest video about Black Men We Need to Talk. I think it was Men We Need to Talk or Black Men We Need to Talk. I'll put the link to the video in the description. And I heard the usual rhetoric about man blaming, especially black man blaming. How good black men need to call black men out on certain behaviors, especially for something we've heard for the last, well, hell, if you go back to Frazier's book, the last 100 years, black men don't take care of their kids. And we're saying that good black men should shame other black men, whatever percentage, and call them out and make a separation about behavior. And I want to say, let's put it this way. And this is going to sound condescending, probably because it might be condescending. It's cute when the sheep actually start bleeding and buying about something that they really don't understand. Because I think it's cute, especially on my channel. I think it's cute that for 100 years you call black men out on not taking care of their children and not doing what they're supposed to do. And after 100 years, you think that doing it more is actually going to help. You've been shaming black men for 100 years, and you think shaming them more is actually going to do any good when things are actually getting worse, instead of understanding why things are getting worse compared to the outcomes that we want. Like the elite know, just like I know, morality and shaming doesn't drive behavior. What drives behavior is environment, social, cultural, and physical environment. And all those three things will shape people's behavior. It always has. Marriage is nothing but an adaptation to the environment. That's all it is. It's not a moral question. It's not ordained by God. It is an instrument to adapt yourself to the environment so that you and your offspring can survive. When you fuck with the environment, you will change behavior. There's nothing you can do about it. The only way to change behavior is to change the environment. That's my opening ramble. With that being said, let us get into the article. This is a 2016 article. Happy families, male acceptance of equality in the home could define the future. And this is written by women, believe it or not. As we approach the UN International Day of Families, only the foolhardy would try and predict the future of family groups. Previous attempts have, in fact, failed. William J. Good, writing in the early 1960s during the golden age of marriage, saw convergence towards the Western-style conjugal family as an inevitable consequence of industrialism. No sooner had his seminal book, World Revolution and Family Patterns, been published than divorce rates started increasing and married women began moving into the labor force. They changed the environment. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, however, and there are some clear clues we can draw on to guess how family life might change in Europe over the years. From the early 1970s, marriage and childbearing began to be postponed, and cohabitation and non-marital childbearing began to increase. The trend is clear in the chart below. And this is a chart of how from 1972 to 2012 in the EU, 28 countries of the EU, the out of wedlock births actually increased. There's more. Demographers Dirk van de Ka and Ron Lessentha interpreted these changes as a consequence of changing values, increased self-fulfillment, and individualism. They suggested that all European countries would experience a second demographic transition. Marriage, sex, and parenthood would be separated, and we would see a convergence to sustain low fertility and a new set of family forms: non-marital fertility, lone parenthood, and cohabitating couple families. What does that sound like? Sounds like what we have today, does it not, Cynthia G? There has been a movement in most countries toward new family forms such as cohabitation and non-marital childbearing, even in what are generally considered to be more religious countries in Southern Europe. In Spain, births outside of marriage rose from 2% in 1972 to 39% in 2012. And that is a very, very hardcore Catholic country, which in their birth rate, their out of birth rate actually mimics what happened in America from 1965 to basically 2012. Almost, well, basically, actually more than, actually mimics America. Countries still differ, though, in the way in which cohabitation, marriage, and childbearing are related. The extent to which governments have enacted to recognize and regulate non-marital cohabiting unions and same-sex couples suggests that the appearance of family forms will continue to vary greatly between countries. Poverty effects. As biographies have become destandardized, so there has been a convergence toward diversity. In other words, people today experience a greater range of ways to organize their family lives, and we expect such diversity to characterize future families. However, according to the U.S. scholar Sarah McLanahan, socioeconomic differences in types of parenting structures and behaviors in evidence can be seen as fueling poverty by creating diverging destinies for children. Partly in response to economic precariousness and reduced gains to marriage, less well-educated people are more likely to enter partnerships at an early age and to have children outside of marriage. They are also more likely to see their relationships fail or go through pregnancy and multiple partners. Compared to those with higher levels of education in the U.S. and possibly also in the U.K. And in the U.K., out of birthlock rate is actually over 50%, which is nationally is higher than the United States. You can also see the evidence of persistent diversity in large cross-national differences in the level of childbearing. As it can be seen in the chart below, there is persistently low fertility, around 1.3 to 1.4 births per woman in Southern Europe and German-speaking countries, compared to much higher fertility, between 1.8 and 2 children per woman in the Nordic countries and Western Europe. Childbearing is higher in countries with higher levels of female labor force participation. Economic development and generosity of paid parental leave, provisions for mothers, and paternity leave. Drivers of change. There are several factors likely to affect how families are structured and organized, and which could impact on shaping the future families. These include increasing longevity, which has important implications for how we plan our lives, care needs, and intergenerational relations. Increased international migration will create more transnational families, especially since for the first time, women account for more than 50% of all international migrants. Technology is likely to influence the future of families too. As mobility increases, family members are increasingly geographically separated, but more connected via mobile technologies. Flexible working becomes more possible, allowing men and women to better combine their work and family roles. Home life. Another driver of change in future families is gender equality. The United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development sets, among others, the goal of achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. But which type of gender equality matters for the future of families? The adaptation of women to their new role in traditionally male activities in the public sphere and the acceptance of their new roles as equal or primary earners has been faster than the adaptation of men to traditional female roles as care provider. Men's share of housework and childcare is highest in gender egalitarian countries such as Nordic ones and lowest in areas of low gender equality such as Southern and Eastern Europe. However, look at the chart above and you can see that in all countries, women still devote more time than men in housework activities. The gender revolution is far from being fully completed, even in the gender egalitarian Nordic countries. Sharing the load. Proponents of gender revolution theory predict a happy ending for the family of the future. Once gender equality is in all spheres of life is reached, a new model of family will become widespread and higher fertility and more stable unions. However, current data highlights striking differences across social classes. Gender egalitarian ideologies and decreased risk of divorce are a prerogative of the highly educated. Whether the gender revolution will translate into a positive outcome for families in the future may depend on how fast men, especially lower social classes, embrace gender equality in the home. This equality that seems to matter most for promoting more stable families and higher fertility. The hope has to be that attitudes toward an equal division of tasks in and outside of home will continue to spread until we arrive at a new model of the family where partners become increasingly more similar in terms of their employment and caring responsibilities. This has been co-published with the World Economic Forum. Now, there's more articles I could read on this. Tons more articles I can read on. What did they say? What are they telling you? What did I just tell you? It's something Janet Yellen told you. The freeing of women, the changing of how the marital bond is and the marital form is what is causing this. And it's not just causing it here, it's causing this worldwide. Now, this is a European, this was a European chart that we saw before. This is a worldwide chart. Nobody's untouched. Some people are untouched by degree because the so-called gender equality is reaching in some places like South Korea and China later than it is here in the Western countries. But if you look at Chile, who's basically out of wedlock birth rate is damn near 70. It's damn near equal to what African Americans are. The Nordic countries have 55% out of wedlock birth rate. Great Britain, the UK, has 50% out of wedlock birth rate. There ain't no majority black people there. It's not a black problem. It's not a white problem. It's an environment problem. It's caused by the Industrial Revolution. They said it. The World Economic Forum said it in its article. The changing of the gender roles, women going into the workplace, them being more educated, them delaying childbirth. What are the main two things that you see? An increase of the decrease of marriage, increase of divorce, and you see the increase of out of wedlock rates across the board, across all races. It's not just black or white. Even if you look at the white community, since 1965, their out of wedlock birth rate has increased tenfold, from 3% to 30%, and it's still climbing. They figure they're going to top out at around 70 to 80% out of wedlock birth rate for white people. It's an environmental thing. And this is worldwide. I can show you stats from all over the world. It's going to be exactly the same thing. I understand that you're tired of family breakups, non-marital, out of wedlock births, non-marital births, all that kind of stuff. You can't do shit about it. You haven't been able to do shit about it for 100 years. It's not new. The rate of increase, the rate of increase has basically gone up. But out of wedlock birth rate for black folks, African Americans, has never been zero. It was 10% back in the 20s. Monahan knew that what they did to is by allowing welfare reform, and they actually did it for white families, would actually exacerbate the problem in the black community, which it did. They changed the environment. They actually, believe it or not, whether we like it or not, was by restricting welfare and assistance to black women, did tamp down the out of wedlock birth rate. It just did. When you change the environment, what happened? It's like an invasive species. It soared. It soared. The only way to change this is to control your environment. Draconian has said that you have to control the manufacturing process. You're going to have to do something radical. Having women shaming men and even men shaming men will not do a goddamn thing. Here, I'm going to say it again. Men shaming men or women shaming men will not do a goddamn thing. It hasn't done a goddamn thing in 100 years. It hasn't done a goddamn thing in almost 60 years. What is the definition for insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You have to change the fucking environment. Now, BGS, what advice would you give? And this is going to be draconian, and most women will not agree. There's 3 ways you can do this shit. There's 3 ways you can do this, and nobody's going to like it. You can go back to the old way. Cut out fornication, period. If a guy gets caught breaking a flower, he bought it. He's got to marry her or face consequences. You fuck her, you break her hymen, guess what? She's yours for life. And there is no such thing as fucking divorce. No, this no fault divorce that we have don't apply to us. You fuck her, you marry her, period. That means women, you fuck him, guess what? If you just decide to let him up in your womb, that's your husband for the rest of your life. You better be happy with him. If your hymen is broken and you ain't no virgin and you pregnant and you don't name his ass, guess what? You get banned. You get pushed out of the community. You don't get no help from us. Number 2, you don't want to do that. That's too harsh. Reverse who gets the children. Nigga, you knock her up. You take care of the kids. You take that child from that mother. Now, if you birth a child, that child belongs to the father. The father's parents will have to come, and if he's 15 years old, guess what? The father's parents have to come get that child and take him home. The kid belongs to the father. And for that chick, you get one shot. The second time you do that, baby out of wedlock, you get shunned. Didn't do it the right way. The kid belongs to the father. Take away the woman's parental rights. If you had parental rights for hundreds of years, guess what? You fucked it up. Guess what happens? We snatch them away. We're going to try something new for the next 100 years. Kid belongs to the father. He knocks you up. You have the kid. Guess what? You don't get your kid. Kid goes to the father. You don't get no money, no welfare, no child support, no nothing. You have the kid. Once you have that kid, father takes parental rights. Third thing, and I know nobody's going to like this one because I've already heard kids buck. Arranged marriages. No fornication, arranged marriages. You do not get to pick your own spouse. Your families will pick the spouse for you. Your mother, your mom and dad on one side, mom and dad on the other, or mom on the other will get together and figure out who gets who. You're giving up your rights. That's your wife, that's your husband. And the families will come together to enforce it. And the only way you can get a divorce is either apply to the parents, if they're still alive. And if not to the parents, to the church like it used to be. Not to the state, but to the church or to the parents. If the community says you can get a divorce, you can get a divorce. If not, guess what happens? Got to stay together. And if the wife gets a divorce from the husband and is granted, guess where the kids go? They go with the father. She loses her parental rights. You want to walk, you're unhappy with your husband, guess what happens? You walk by yourself. No money, no kids. You want men to be responsible, guess what? This is making them responsible. If you don't want to take responsibility for the rights and freedoms that you're given, guess what? We're going to take them away. You don't get the kids. You're irresponsible for having that child out of wedlock. Guess what? Give the kids to the father's family. And then we can get on his ass. Because now he has the kids and he's responsible for not letting them starve. Not you. So if it's welfare or child support or whatever that you would have gotten, now it goes to him. So a woman cannot use a baby as a come up. We'll eliminate all of that stuff. But this week, it's a good question because I'm tired of hearing this shit, especially this question. I'm going to be doing this out of wedlock shit all week long. I got other stories, so that means I'm going to be at least doing 2 or 3 stories a day. But this has gotten my attention. And I don't want to hear no bullshit opinions. I don't want to hear the fucking reinterpretation of my data. Go out and pull other data. You want to prove me wrong? Don't give me no bullshit. Well, this is what I think. And black men, I don't want to hear that bullshit. I gave you data. I want data. And not no bullshit data. I want facts. I want charts. I want numbers. You don't give me facts and numbers, I don't want to hear it. And your comment may get deleted. In other words, fuck your feelings, cupcake. Give me some logic. Anyway, this one's gone on long enough. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one.